Hello and welcome to Wednesday at 1. Today I think is a bit of a love show. Love show? Yes. It's all about love.
Yeah.
I'm with Frida and Jan Day, and it's quite amazing to be sitting next to you because I know so many people that speak so much about you, and most of them are men because of my men's groups that come and do your workshops and all of that, and they say, oh yeah, and there's Frida, he's the guy that does all the men's stuff, and you know. First of all, I wasn't sure, but there's something about him that's like a rock. And I think, and I kind of thought, what is it this not sure about? And I've heard that about me, and I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's because rather than being razzmatazz and selling yourself, you're available. Fair to say?
Yeah, I'm in service, yeah. I'm in service of Jan.
Right.
A totally new concept. I'm in love with Jan, and I'm in service of people who come. And I really like men, and I like that men are empowered and do their thing, and find a way to their heart and to open. And this is what we do.
So in a nutshell, or even a whole bag of nuts, what do you do?
The short answer is that we teach people to love. And we teach people to start with to love themselves. And in order to love themselves, they have to be in contact and connection with themselves. So we start with really coming into the body, being able to feel the body and feel what's going on in the body. And that includes the sexuality, so that we're really aware what's happening in here. In fact, even on our one-day workshops, the meetings without masks, that's one of the main structures, is to teach people to resensitize themselves so they know what they want. So that's pretty fundamental, what's happening inside this body. And then once we've got a connection with here and a connection with the heart, so we're bringing together an emotional connection with the body, we need people to be willing to feel what happens inside their body, working with touch a lot, so we're touching the body and touching, of course, all the feelings that happen. So we're making this connection, making a connection between heart and sex, and then letting it come up to ultimate love.
Wonderful. And the meetings without masks, as you said that, because I've heard about that, and I love the graphic. You've got a really nice graphic for that, haven't you?
My sister.
Really?
She's an artist, she draws them for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of two things, because I am on Saturday running my Men Flirt workshop. And Men Flirt, as these people probably already know, is not about flirting, but it's about being an authentic male and letting go of all the masks and the cheap line I used is from masculine to masculine. How cheap is that?
Oh, no, that's great.
Cheap sells.
We used to call our meetings without masks naked dating.
Really?
Well, it is in a way. We are getting naked, but with our clothes on.
Yeah.
So we're getting naked and taking off all the rubbish that we put in front to be who we think everyone thinks we ought to be.
Right.
So that's the way we're getting naked. It's not really dating at all, because dating, you're kind of going, I don't want that one, don't want that one.
Exactly.
So we're not doing that, but we're looking at everybody and saying, okay, what's lovely about that one? What's lovely about that one? And what it does is it helps people to look through the filters that they put on the world, so who they blank out, they don't even see those people.
Yeah.
And then they only see a certain other group. And what I'm aiming to do is kind of help them dissolve those filters so they can see everybody. Because what I know from my own life is that years ago, I was single for about 12 years. And actually, what I finally discovered was that I was filtering out all the men who could possibly be in a relationship with me and getting very excited about the men who couldn't.
So you were safe.
Yeah, I was. Very exciting, very exciting. Yeah. Oh yes, chemistry. More chemistry.
I also find, do you find this? I find that my clients will have done, oh yes, she's perfect for me because I know how to survive that rotten script. Rather than...
It's so familiar. Feels
Yeah.
so safe.
Exactly.
It's awful, but it's so familiar.
Yeah.
Familiar feels really safe.
And I'd say the most sacred part of my work, I don't know if it's the same for you, is it's fine to know everything, and it's fine to understand everything, and it's fine to know how I or an individual wants to live. But it's that switch over from I'm in control and I'm surviving and I know how to stay in control and survive into now I'm going to live, which means life can meet me. I will die to life. I will not push everything down the old script, and I will attract bigger, better, scarier and more love that I might just burst. It's that switch over from control to out of control, from surviving into living, and I guess it is very much from head to heart.
Yeah,
Same
it's
as
into
you?
surrender, absolutely, yeah. It's a process of going into surrender and being able to meet whatever comes. And in order to meet whatever comes, we have to feel safe enough in ourselves. Like we haven't to be afraid of our own sadness or our own anger. We have to be able to be with all this stuff that goes on inside of us.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to spend the rest of our lives ducking away from those places. And then actually we are safe, we can meet anything.
It's such a relief to hear you say, allow the sadness, and for me, too much around me is all about, you should be happy, are you a number 3 or a number 10? Well, you should be a number 11, and it's like, what? I remember speaking to a friend and saying, I was so angry this morning and I was enraged and da-da. And he said, all you need to do is get the pillow or you write it out, and it's like, if you come near my anger, I will break your arms. It's my anger and I'm not letting it shift until I'm done with it. I want to feel it, I want to feel through it, and I want to get the gifts, hear what it's teaching me, hear what it's showing. And even if it's not, it's mine. I need to feel this, and I need to feel my sadness. And if I don't, then what am I denying parts of life that are parts of life? And I kind of also feel without the negative, so-called, how could there be the positive? Without the breakdown, how could there be the breakthrough? Without the fear, how could there be the love? That's not to say find some crap, because surely if you do crap well, then somehow Jesus will bestow some goodness. Nah. What do you think? How do you think it works?
I think we have to be willing to be our whole messy human self with all of it, and be able to meet whatever comes in ourselves and celebrate it. And I think it's quite important. I like when you say I want to be with it. Basically, you're saying I don't want to get rid of it.
Exactly.
Because I'm definitely not into people, like trying to get rid of it, beating the hell out of a pillow or something.
Exactly.
It's there to tell us something, and if we learn how to be with those energies and we can be with them fully, then they're all useful. And without them, life is dead, and we have to deaden ourselves.
Exactly.
We want to come
it's
alive.
Part of life.
Yeah.
It's part of life. And some of my, I don't know if this is politically incorrect, a lot of my men's group manning clients, who I know have worked with you because they talk about you, I would say are relatively wealthy. And the sad thing about a lot of my more wealthy clients is they were very often disposed of at boarding school, or disposed of with what they should be and how they should do and passed on, and not really nurtured or cherished or even properly protected. It's like you can buy into this, you can buy out of that, and there's no space for the connection. And with that, they are so used to, I need to be happy, I need people to be nice with me, so I know which restaurant I'll go to because I like the staff, rather than I'll connect and people will connect with me and I don't need to buy it, I can be it. So this whole disposed of, it's like what saddens me is the way that these people can often, or were trained to buy into things and buy out of things, and to be very heavy about this. This includes their own lives sometimes. Is I'm not happy, I feel pain, and I've tried this course, and I've tried this therapist, and I've tried this I'm still not happy, so I think I'm going to leave. I'm going to take myself from the situation. And I've had very logical conversations about suicide, and I've needed to take them from their, I can buy myself out of this as well, into their bodies, into their hearts, into their lives, into their histories, into their stories, and out of their stories, and into the playground. I'm guessing for me the playground is the kind of work that you do where you hold the space, so people can find out who they are, unlearn who they're not, and start to play.
Yes,
and
that's exactly right.
Fair to say?
I think that's exactly fair to say. And I think one of the things that we do is give people a place where they can feel loved, feel the family, because we have an 18-month group where people come over and over again. About every 2 months they come for 18 months, and they get to know each other really well and go deep into each other and their sexual nature.
Yeah.
And they get a place where they can be loved and be in relationship with this group and find out how to be in relationship with themselves and discover their sexual nature and learn. They kind of get a chance to be teenagers again, where they can try things out and fail, and it can be messy, and they don't have to get it all right, and they're going to be loved anyway, and they can fall on their face and get up again.
Yeah.
And learn to be natural and learn to be accepted and loved. And you're absolutely right on. So many, and it's not only men, of course, there's some women too, sent off to boarding school and have never been held and loved. So they've just never been held and loved.
And the funny thing I find with some of my boarding school boys, because when I meet them, to be honest, they are boys, and I've worked with quite a few people from the same class, very often from Harrow. For some reason I attract old Harrovians, Etonians and God knows why. Why do I attract Harrovians? I'm a refugee, I'm terribly educated, but for some reason I attract Harrovians. And it's interesting that not only do they say, well, my place was I was good at sports, and so was good musician, and he was good at maths, and he was good with girls, and he was the joker, and the different parts of their personalities are distributed amongst the class. And to start working with them and say, right, now let's find out who the man in you is, and allow him to show up to take care of that boy in you, because you don't need to send that boy into the war zone or into the world, because it's not his place.
Yeah.
And now that boy in you, yes, he did have a place in school and he did have a place in this community, but the man in you can take back all those parts that he wasn't allowed to have and see if they fit. You don't have to be them all, but what's true, or what's true for a while, and how you're going to test run them, and then they get whole. And so much of it, I don't know about your work, but so much of mine is unlearning who they no longer need to be. Unlearning the survival, unlearning the this doesn't happen to me, or this is what's going to happen, etc., etc. So they're present and connected and able to respond with an open heart if they choose, because it's not a have to do open heart like a commando workshop person. Do you know what I mean? What do you find? And also, how do you find it working with the men?
So I think the key is, especially if I want to be in a relationship, to unlearn. So I like this word very much. So I don't have to have a mask. Yeah. If I really want to be intimate, connected to a woman, what gets in the way is a mask. What gets in the way, what you just said, is a little boy.
Yeah.
Or is the warrior, or whatever you do.
Yeah.
And the key word is vulnerability.
Yes.
And what it means is just to relax for a second and not have an answer. Just be for a moment there. And wait for a second, make a pause, wait. If you are opposite a woman, take a deep breath, let it happen, let it develop.
And be together.
And be, yeah.
Yeah.
And this I think is the key. It is this interesting saying, vulnerability is strength, and not being and it's true for relationship. Vulnerability is strength, but it's very, what it really means, I don't have an answer, I don't need to have an answer, I can just be me in a reduced, unexcited, unskillful way. Just back to square one. I can be me.
Yeah.
And a woman will not reject me for this, she will love me for this.
That's what it's all about with men first, is rather than being some cheap fraud, attracting another cheap fraud, and not realising it until you've had your third child and you start going to AA or NA or whatever it is. It's like, and I've had this with clients, it's like, I woke up one day and I looked around and I thought, who is this man? He's my husband, but who is he and how did I end up with him and these 2 kids? What's going on? And it happens.
Yeah,
it so happens.
It's really sad.
And it doesn't mean that you need to continue with the fraud. It's like, now in this situation, who am I? And who is this person? And how do we undo whatever it was? Because the scripts obviously matched somehow.
I
for
think
them to...
You know, when people are trying to be a certain way in order to be loved, then they're putting out, okay, I'm going to be this way in order to be loved, and I'll only be loved if I am this way.
Yeah.
What they don't realise is that, okay, well, if I'm only going to be this way and somebody's going to get to know me like that, they are never going to find out who I really am. So I've lost all chance of being loved. Exactly. I can't be loved if I'm not seen. I have to be seen to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think the penny drops on that when people are around each other enough being real. Suddenly they realise, oh, perhaps actually I could be loved here.
Yeah.
Perhaps I could be loved. I just have to be me. I don't have to be something else. Somebody said a lovely line in one of her workshops the other day. I discovered I didn't have to be who you want me to be. I only had to be.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I mean, this comes if I am for a while in a very group environment where there's a lot of love. Suddenly I discover I am really loved. People like me. And it's not for this reason or for this reason. It's not because I do this or I am representing. It's just me. And it's love.
And it's not about being nice either. It's not nice.
Oh God, how icky. That's just another fraud.
It's another fraud.
And it's a fraud that I choose not to collude with, because then that nice person's going to carry on sliming their niceness over me. And you can blame them. If I give that energy and I meet them there, then I'm saying, yes, this is where we meet. Where I would rather say, no, I guess the way that I do it is, rather than meeting here, it's up to me to come from there and make an invitation of, meet me here, where I am, or where I think you are as well, where is real. And if I don't take it to that place, then I can't say, well, it's not there, you know, it's their fault. But what I really like about what you said is the being and the allowing, almost enabling people to love you. And I have found very, very strongly that until I love myself, I'm not allowing other people to love me. If I criticize myself, I will demand people criticize me to prove me right. If I believe I'm going to be rejected or betrayed or whatever, and it might be because I've seen it or because it's happened in the past, then I am not going to stop until I've proved myself right, and therefore I'm not going to do relationships, and I'm in control, and you know what I mean? And I'll stamp my feet inside, but outside I'll be a nice broad mask.
No, it is really about life is friendly and loving. Life has a lot of opportunities. It's all available. Who is closed down? It's me. I don't take what's on offer. So I really have to allow being loved. I have to allow to open my heart.
And that's scary.
And this is
Dangerous.
This is really because it's a new way of living. This is really scary.
Is that a new way of living?
Yeah, I think so. Instead of going out, being somebody, having almost the opposite direction, relaxing and allowing life to come in, allowing life to bless me, especially as a man. I don't have to go out and fight for what I want.
Yeah.
I don't have to pretend. I don't have to get what I want.
That's
It
stuff.
is right. It
Yeah.
is there,
Yeah.
available.
Mm.
I just have to open and receive.
Yeah. One thing that I really meant to say, I don't remember what you said right in the beginning, but it was about intimacy and touch and stuff like that. And what excited me about, I've heard a little bit about your work from the men that I've worked with, and one of the things that they rave about is how you deal and demonstrate boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I was brought up with boundaries are for bad people. And that was a mixture between, a confusion between boundaries and barriers. And we were a nice Catholic family who need to be seen to be accepting everyone and being all loving and whatever it is. So it's open, 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 but the odd bitch, you know, bitch about people, but then, you know, they will learn and it's all very judgmental, but there was no communication, there were no boundaries. And what I learned as an adult is they were, not only were they talking about barriers, but there were intimacy issues coming from...
Yeah, of course. If you've got no boundaries, you can't actually have any intimacy
Exactly.
because you're not being real.
Yeah.
So in fact, when we work with touch, it's a really powerful way to learn about being authentic, because actually when people are going to start touching your body, that's very powerful to learn about saying yes and no. It gets really important. So we start really slowly. Like if you put your hand up to mine, so we're going to just feel, do I want to be closer or not? Okay? Do I want to be closer? And then at any point, so we're saying yes and no all the time.
Yeah.
Do I want?
Yeah. And it's not in my head. It's more...
we're feeling it and we're going slowly enough. So
Exactly.
we just feel, do I want to? Breathe, feel all the feelings that are coming. Do I want to be closer? Do I want to be closer? And then it gets even closer and now even more energy is happening. Do I want? And now do I still want?
And not only is it intimate, but it's conscious, it's true, it's not an act, it's powerful, and it's quite blissful to have true connection rather than grab, perform, second guess and play a game, or prove myself right about wrong things. So how do you, is this how you do it on the workshops?
Well, it depends how long the workshop is. So
Right.
Usually these days, the shortest one is 1 day.
Right.
And then we start with two people facing each other. So a man and a woman usually facing each other. And
So they're all heterosexual workshops?
Most of mine are,
Right.
yes. Now, that's not just actually, when we do couples workshops, often we'll have gay couples or lesbian couples come along.
Right.
And that works totally fine. But because most of my clientele are heterosexual,
Right.
it doesn't work very well unless they're bisexual. It works fine if you're bisexual. And we do work. We do work usually in groups of 4 actually. So
Right.
usually be 2 women and 2 men together. So a group of 4, 2 women, 2 men. So it's not that there isn't that same-sex contact, but because most people are heterosexual, most of the people who are attracted are heterosexual. It's not exclusively that way, but I would say it works better just because most people want to meet people who are more or less the same orientation as them.
That's the vibe that you put out, it seems. So those are the people, I mean,
Those-
similar to me.
I would like to go back to this yes and no, because this is really fundamental. Mostly when we say yes, we mean no. And when we say no, we mean yes.
Yeah.
Problem number 1.
Give an example, just so the millions of viewers in TV land get it.
Or if I, for example, if I go into a room and I fancy a woman, I run away because it's too scary to go up to this woman and say, for example, oh, I'm Frida and let us talk. My energy is here. Is there something from you too? Now we run into the opposite direction and shut her out. No.
And women do the same actually. That's really funny. A lot of men, one of the things we have in our workshops, in the 1 day ones, is They have a chance to offer each other a question and find out from each other. One of the questions the men often ask is, how would I know if you're attracted to me? And it's really interesting when I've coached women and I ask them, so if you're at a party and you're attracted to a man, what do you do? The answer is very often, oh, I would run into the opposite corner and turn away. Well, that's really helpful, isn't it? But the men need to know that, actually.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's come back to this yes and no, because it is important. And Frieda's right. Most people say yes when they mean no, and no when they mean yes. And when you ask them, okay, in touch, this gets really obvious, you know, so okay, are you going to let me come close, close, close? And then I say at the end, okay, did anybody let somebody come closer than they wanted? Did they effectively say yes when they meant no? Okay, yeah, quite a few people will put their hands up. Okay, so what made you do that? Well, I didn't want to hurt him. Okay, so now let's do another little reality check. How many of you would like to spend a night with somebody who actually doesn't want to be with you? Not many people put their hand up. How many people would like to have dinner with somebody who actually doesn't want your company? How many would you even like to be touched by somebody who actually doesn't want to be touching you? I mean, it's icky. Of course we don't want that. When you say, I don't want to hurt you, that's what you're subjecting them to, so you're going to hurt them. And it makes you completely untrustworthy. So what we're teaching is that people can welcome and hear that no, instead of as a rejection, to hear it as, oh, this person is saying no, and that means I can trust them. That means if I know they can say no, when they say yes to me, I can trust it. Wow, that's a relief. And where that takes us to in the realm of touch is, if I know that Frieda will say no whenever, means I can be more playful, because actually I can try anything. I know that.
Because you know the language, you've decoded the secret language.
I know that he'll say no, so I don't have to walk on eggshells and try not to second guess, because he's going to tell me. We can be much more playful, and people discover they can have much more touch and much more fun.
So with the clear yes and no, pleasure, ecstasy, and real intimacy starts. But if I don't know, if I do this, I'm not sure if you like it or not, yes and no. Then I'm in nowhere land. I don't know, I'm second. It goes nowhere. But if I trust, I get a yes or no. And if I trust you, you would say no. No, this is not what I want. We can play.
And in order to do that, we both have to resensitize our bodies,
That's
so we even know what we want.
Explain.
So most of us, to some degree, have numbed our body down, so we don't feel very much. And usually we've done it for all kinds of good reasons, like when we were little, you know, these big rough daddy hands were picking us up and touching us. We had no way to say no.
Or staff.
Yeah.
And that's a very different concept, because I've realised so many of my clients, the touch was I am work, rather than I am love.
In a hospital,
Or even because they have nannies and maids
Yes,
that they're presented
exactly,
to them. And it's a huge, you know, I guess I attract a lot of wealthy people because they are so demonized, because you've got everything, therefore there's nothing wrong with you. Meanwhile, it's like, I haven't been loved, I haven't been nurtured, I was abandoned, I don't have the language, I don't have the experience. I have such young men in their early 20s from boarding school that treat everyone like these glorious, mysterious ladies. Oh, but it just goes to show how disconnected they are from themselves, from touch, from community, from families, from women, from girls, from everything. And meanwhile, it's projected on them, well, you've got everything, it's all right for you. They are impoverished, and it's not fair for anyone to project on anyone that you've got everything, it's all right, you can buy in and out of things. I'm not sure about buying love. Exactly.
So they're basically numb. And then you get two people who are somewhat numb together, both touching each other at the same time and not saying anything. So nothing is really happening. Nobody's feeling anything, and we're going through a pretense. So what we're often teaching people is to do they're only being touched or touching. So it's not too much. This is too much information when it's going both ways. So then they're just receiving, they're going slowly, they're breathing, and they're learning this very simple vocabulary. Yes, I like it. No, I don't like it. pause a minute, I don't know.
Pause. Pause.
Be with it.
Yeah, just
Pause.
be with it.
Everything stops.
Yeah.
Pause. Ah.
Just going to feel what's happening under those hands until I wanted to carry on to. And then stop.
And then I like one especially. Please.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. And that's so important because we're not taught, most of us are taught, as girls anyway, that to like sex, that's really slutty.
Yeah,
We shouldn't like
yeah.
sex, so we don't pretend, we don't like
Even
it.
married women. It's
Yeah.
like, he will judge me if I'm enjoying myself. Meanwhile, the poor guy's thinking, what's
What
wrong
am I
with me?
supposed to do?
I know that she, I'm confused and, God,
Yeah.
we're decent people.
So we definitely do teach people to enjoy their bodies, to enjoy their sexual nature, and all in a very safe environment. So people can be as careful and go as slowly as they want to, and people can be wild if they want to. And if we've got this language of yes and no,
Yeah.
really learning that deeply and thoroughly, so that nothing is ever happening that somebody doesn't want to have. Nobody ever has to do anything, nobody ever has to have anything done to them. And really learning that they won't be hated because they've said, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It brings about an incredible intimacy because people are being honest, probably for the first time,
Yeah.
with these two basic words, yes and no. Just
Mm.
learning to be honest with them. And that brings this level of intimacy that begins to build into a relationship and trust.
Most people that I have known by far who've worked with you are English. And you're not English.
Really?
Yeah. And I wonder with touch, intimacy, vulnerability, I remember how much when I did the Sex and Spirit conference at the Finchman Foundation, long time ago, how the non-English people would say, sex in the UK, and they just fell on the floor laughing. Intimacy, what, in the UK? But then, how has it been? Because I wonder how many people are listening to this and thinking, what, someone's going to touch me and I'm going to say yes, I'd freeze, or this is too intimate, or do these people at some stage make you take your clothes off, and are they strange cult type people? So, what's the score?
So, nobody would ever make you do anything, including taking your clothes off. I will also not make you keep them on at certain stages. But what is important, we have to go slowly enough that people get to a stage where they know what matters to them.
So
what
it's
really matters.
in their power.
Yeah, absolutely, it has to be.
Yeah.
So I say even nobody will touch you if you don't want it in any of our seminars, and
you will never have to touch anybody.
and you have not. Yeah, you don't.
And
have
learning that's even important. Even on
Yeah.
the one-day seminars, we do that where there's an opportunity. It's usually just with touching hands on one day. So somebody will come close to another one. The other one will put their hands out, offering, yes, I'd like to be touched. Just because I'm inviting you to touch me doesn't mean he's got to.
Yeah.
If
I'm
I don't
allowed to
want,
want, and he's allowed to not want, and that's okay. And I might have feelings, and that's all right. And he might have feelings, and that's all right.
And your feelings belong to yourselves,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
they aren't enmeshed with each
Yeah,
other.
I don't have to do something just to please you.
Yeah.
So everybody.
so you don't have to
Yeah,
touch,
everybody
and you don't have to touch, and you don't have to be touched.
And you don't have to get your kit off, and you don't have to leave your kit on either.
No.
And it sounds like it's incredibly articulate, from fears and feelings and things in the past and things that people have made up, and maybe religion and ancestral stuff
All
and
of that
whatever.
comes in.
It all comes out, and it's owned by the individual.
Yes. Yeah.
So I totally like this. Touch is the shortcut to pain, to all your pain, touch, physical touch, and it's a shortcut to all your pleasure. You have you have everything there. But the most important thing, it's you deciding yes or no. I like, I don't like. I want, I don't want. I'm ready, I'm not ready. This is what we are holding, this wonderful woman.
And you know what's really interesting? Because we actually do get quite a lot of people who are married coming. And usually these days especially, I encourage them to come one at a time, not to come together. Because all the stuff that they're bringing to their relationship predates their relationship completely.
Yeah.
And if we come together, then usually all of this is going to be going on, and I can't actually work on this, what's going inside.
Yeah.
Often only one of them has to come. And they'll take the learning. So, for example, a couple of years ago, a woman came. I think she was in her 50s. They'd been married a long time, maybe 30 years. And sex wasn't happening. And she came to a week-long workshop. She learned about herself. She learned about her sexual nature. She became full and alive, and then she went home to her husband. I actually met him because they came to one of my couples workshops. I do couples workshops as well, but that is working on this. And he said, I don't know what you did to her, but I'm really happy. And he goes the other way around too, where the man comes and he learns about himself and then goes back as a much more whole being.
What a gift to take back to your own relationship.
Yeah. So the point is, the work we do is all inner learning. It's about healing this and doing it in a safe place and dissolving away the shame so that you can go back to your own beautiful monogamous relationship, or so that you can go out and meet the man or the woman that you really want to meet and not have to bring all this baggage from years and years with you, because you've let go of something, you know who you are, you've grown up. And it makes it so much easier to be in a relationship if you've dealt with who you are and made yourself whole and created an intimacy with yourself. You know who you are, so there's this intimacy going on. Now I can meet you.
I've got a two-level question. The first one is, I would imagine that this might bring up an awful lot for an awful lot of people. And we talked about more abandonment and what will people think, which is all relatively light compared to abuse and incest and rape and things like that. And I'm guessing that this will bring that up. So the first part of the question is, do you and how do you deal with it when it comes up? And the second part of the question is, I know with my own experience that as I work with people and things come up, I will be punished. I will be the one that has brought it up, or I will take the place of the father or the betrayer, whatever, because then I hold it as they work it through before they move on. So firstly, how do you deal with this, and do you feel that people project stuff on you, and how do you work with that? You're my father, you're my mother, you're my abuser, you're the Antichrist.
So the first part is, yes, of course, abuse comes up. And in fact, even on the one-day meetings without masks, it comes up. There was a beautiful example, and this actually illustrates the whole thing. A man was walking towards a woman, and they were invited to show where their movement was coming from. Was it coming from their heart? Was it coming from their head? Or their intuition? Was it coming from their belly? Or was it coming from their sex? Oh, my goodness, we've got sex. So the man dared, she was a very attractive woman, and he was walking towards her, showing that he was attracted to her. His sex was driving him at some point. And she put her hands up and said no.
There's a no.
Yeah. And he stopped. That was the most healing thing that had ever happened to her, because she'd been raped 5 times.
Right.
It was important to her that he said, I'm attracted to you, and I want to come towards you.
He told the truth.
Yeah. He told the truth, he was clean and open,
Yeah.
and she said stop, and he stopped.
And she held the boundary.
Yeah.
And her boundary was...
Yeah. It's like now, in the process of, it's like she's rerun the same story, but had a different outcome. Because she's been able to say stop, and he stopped. And that's what's important, that people, so even on the week-long workshops, even on, we have a New Year workshop, which is much lighter. We actually don't get much into sexuality on the New Year workshop. We do use touch, but no sexuality much, unless it comes up. But we don't
It's not a taboo.
there.
It's not
No,
you're
it's
not
never a
allowed.
taboo. It's never a taboo, but we're not actually aiming in that direction. Anyway, we do a structure where there's usually 4 people, and they're allowed to say how many people, 0, 1, 2, or 3, they'd like to touch them. So one of the things I make clear is that at the very beginning, for many people, what will be the most important is to say zero.
Yeah.
To stand in the middle and look at people and just say zero. And not to have to even hide zero. Zero. And it's then they can feel safe. They know they're in control. That nobody's going to touch them if they don't want. And then they can start to enjoy. Then they can have one. Then they can have two. Then they can have three. And then they're relaxed. Okay, now I do like this actually. And I can say stop whenever I want to.
Yeah.
And not only that, because another reason women often don't say stop is because they're afraid if they say stop, it will never start again.
Yes.
So then they can have this important experience of saying stop, it all stops, then they can say three. They won't be touching them again. And so they can have fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So really the way that we deal with it is by going slowly enough and giving people a sense of their own agency, that they can rerun and say this stop as often as they want to, that they never have to have touch. And by going that slowly, that enables people to come back to themselves and feel what they do want. And you know, of course, in the midst of that, sometimes tears are going to happen. Sometimes they need to be held, they need to be soothed, they need to know that there's somebody that will always hold them.
And I'm also, from what you're saying, feeling that all the fantasies of this means this, and that means that, and no means yes, and yes means chase me, or whatever it is, that is all taken from the fantasy, and it's into present and connected and articulated, and really made, this is real, rather than my fantasies are real. I don't need to work out the second guess to play this game. I need to take part in the game. And
real and present. It brings everything into reality and out of the game and the old habits, which, you know, people do fall back into the old habits because it's familiar. But gradually they can let go of them and let go of them and just show up in presence.
So the two key words are presence and slowing it down. Slowing it down. And if I am in any contact with another person, like us two right now, and I'm starting in the back of my head to think about what do I eat in half an hour, I'm already gone out of this connection.
And I'll feel the disconnection.
And you would feel the connection. And in a touch or intimacy connection, then to verbalize, stop, pause. Something is, I'm not here anymore. I have to bring myself back. Or what the things, I'm fancy you, suddenly I see another woman over there. I'm still with you, busy with you, but I'm already there. These are really hurt. This is really hurting, and of course you would pick it up if I'm with you or not.
And I've also found the strangest thing when I've worked with men who are officially drop-dead gorgeous with big muscles and, you know, all the confidence and the patter and party personality and whatever it is, and there are a lot of them around. When I've worked with these men, the number of times they've said to me, I've got laid a lot. I didn't want to get laid. I just wanted to have a hug. And I had to go through all of that for it to be over, just to cuddle her. And the number of men that have said, and once we were done, she just rolled over and ignored me. And how often do you hear it the other way? But
but no, it has. That's come up in, you know, these questions. I said the men ask the women and the women ask the men. And I've had exactly that question. The men asking, if I just want a cuddle, how do I tell you that? If I want to cuddle you, are you going to always assume I want sex? And it's true. Men often also want to go slowly. But they've been told, you know, to be a big proper man, they have to want to go straight to having sex right away. You know.
That sounds like a small improper boy.
Will you be offended if I don't have sex with you on the first night? That was one of the questions that one of the men asked. Will you be offended if I don't have sex with you? Would you feel rejected or would you feel relieved? That's really true. These honest conversations, you know, place where we have honest conversations and knowing that that's all right.
I love that we get to talk about this in the men's groups. And there are different men of different ages and different stages and different backgrounds, but it's all about getting it out and saying, this is my experience, and this is where I am, this is where I'd like to be. How did you guys get from here to there? Or have any of you been here? And I'm guessing, I mean, do you separate into male and female groups? And do you do a similar thing?
Yeah.
So I think what you just said is really true. Men they need a protected space where men talk to each other. And it's totally different from a space where we are together or a women's space.
Yeah.
The beauty about a man's space is the moment women are leaving the room, we are not longer compete for the women. We are just human beings. Yeah? We stop almost immediately, it drops away, and we don't have to impress each other any longer.
Do you know, it's hilarious you say that, because, so I've been running men's groups for about 16 years now, and I ran women's groups for a couple of years, basically, because the women said, what about us? Firstly, they said, if I dress up and paint on a moustache, will I be allowed to come? I want to know what you do. Right. And then they said, will you do one for us? Because we want to talk and we want some of this as well. And then I trained some of them to run their own groups. So I did the men's groups that were a treat. I did the women's groups, and as a male, to ask the women questions, I was not only shocked at how much they hadn't talked about things, but I was shocked at the taboos that I brought up about them competing and them betraying each other for the man. And especially, and I found this so much because I'm in love with my wife, I found so many women who have been betrayed by their men and desperately wounded by it, seducing me like crazy to betray my woman because that's what they had, which really did my head in.
Well, I think it's one of the deeper sexuality work that we do brings together sex and heart.
Right.
Now, most people, even if they've accepted their sexuality or accepted their heart, haven't brought the two together.
Yeah.
So we tend to live with two cuts. So we're either living here, or we're living in our heart, or we're living in our sex.
Yeah.
So when we get married and we fall in love with each other, that means that this gets kind of difficult, because in order to have a sexual relationship with somebody we love, we have to open up both of them. Sex with heart is way more scary and adventurous and challenging than just sex or just heart.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have their love relationship, they have no intention of leaving their husband or wife, but they're going to go off and betray her or him and have an affair. And it doesn't mean anything. What it means is, I can't have my sex together with my heart. I'm not having much sex with you because I love you. And I'm not willing to open up all of this, but I'm willing to have my sex somewhere else. And so that's, I think, where a lot of that comes from.
And do you sometimes get, I love you too much to do those things to you, but I'll do those things to someone else because then you might judge me or I might feel dirty.
Dirty, yeah. Sex is dirty.
Oh, Lord.
Sex is so dirty. Well, I can say that we're definitely dissolving all of sex is dirty, sex is disgusting, and facing it, because a lot of people arrive with that. Sex is dirty, oh, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And coming to a place where we can actually learn that our sexuality is beautiful, sacred, and actually our creative, life-driving force. And if we cut that off, we're cutting off it's like cutting off the source of our energy. Then we've got to push it from all up here.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the source of our energy,
Yes.
so we have to be connected. Yeah.
So the funny thing also was the men on our own were present, connected, authentic, and we learned to unlearn. The women, when I was lucky enough to be allowed in the women's groups, same. Put them together, messy.
Yeah, it is messy.
I didn't expect the women to change so much. I guess I expected the men to change. I didn't expect the women to change so much. I was very, very surprised. And you know, the roles were from seductive to I'm a nice boy to I'll save you to I'm decent to I'm the alpha, you know, whatever, and the same with the women. But it was very strange to put them together. I love doing couples work. You know, what you do is very different to what I do. I will do the men's groups. I don't hold women's groups. I do one-on-one couples work where you do the messes.
You have a whole group of trouble walking. We call it the mirror of the heart.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because all of, we're mirroring each other all the time. Yeah, we work. I love working with groups because people see each other so much. So actually, I almost never do one-on-one anymore. Only when I really need to. I try and.
But I mean, this messiness is the key. The messiness is really the key. If I used another word, vulnerability, messiness. If I'm daring to show what's going on, if you are daring to show what's really going on, if we are honest, we are in for a good relationship. We are in for an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
And I think when people see other people working, they get courage. They see, okay, it's not, I thought it was just me who had those feelings.
That's
so in a
huge
group,
for people.
You see, okay, actually, I'm not abnormal. I'm not weird. Everybody's having these same difficulties and struggles and feelings. And actually, it happens with couples too. They say, oh, actually, we thought, I thought we were really on rocky ground, but actually, we're doing okay. Everybody's having their struggles.
Do you know, what cracks me up is the couples that say, I thought we were on rocky ground. But look at them. One thing that really intrigues me is, as I say, I know men who have done your trainings, lots of them. And then didn't you say earlier on that you have loads of women but not enough men? Or what's the ratio?
We usually have a waiting list of women. So the size of our groups is almost limited by the number of men we have.
Because we want a kind of a balance.
We don't gender balance totally for all of them, but we really want it to go out from like 4 to 5. So 5 women for every 4 men. And we often are turning women away because we haven't got quite enough men. So the men are always really welcome. Because I think the work we do is scary for men because it is deeply emotional. And
so I think women like to work with Jen because they feel safe.
Right.
It's a 100% safe space, and this has gone around. And this is, women need this kind of safety to start or to open or to begin working, especially if it's connected to sexuality. And then it's a big ask to drop into this, to slow down, to drop into this vulnerable space, to start to talk about feeling at all. This is my journey too, to come in contact with myself on another level. I had contact, but it's not longer serving me what I have done so far. I know it, but I do not know how to make the transition into something new.
That's exactly it. And I wonder, I feel that I often attract boys who turn into men. And I wonder whether you have the same, whether they're aware of it or not. It's like, this is the act I have survived with all this time. Now, what's going to fix me? And sadly, the 2 most common things that men don't actually say but come to men's groups to is, what's wrong with me? And how do I do me better? And undoing it, there's everything right with you. Let's find you. And there's nothing to do.
Correct. But what a shift in your inner world. You have your act together in some ways, the old way, and it's not working. You have a tight grip on everything in your life. That's the only thing. It's what is demanded from going through the world like this to this. But this is a big challenge. From here to here. Letting go. Accepting, yes, I am beautiful. I am complete. What you just said. There's nothing to add to the whole thing. But I have to let it go. I have to soften.
And I wonder whether there's a lack of men because the men don't realise it's available. Because
true, yeah.
fair enough, there's fear, and there is fear of the unknown left, right, and centre. But where do boys go? And sadly, they've been limited to the whole pickup artists movement, which isn't doing so well anymore because those boys have matured. And whether they've got their pound of flesh or not, so to speak, they're out the other end and it's like, well, this hasn't worked. And a lot of them, when they find that it hasn't worked there, they find themselves with me. And the guy who wrote the game, I don't remember his name. Didn't he write another book saying,
yes,
well,
he did.
bad game?
In the end. Yeah, in the end he came full circle back to being authentic. Yeah,
and thank God he went through the whole process, shared it, so other people don't have to go through that fraud and pain and filling the hole with the wrong thing, the fixes and stuff like that. So I wonder whether it's just quite simply that the boys don't know that there's somewhere to go.
I think that's correct. True. And the other thing is that women talk to each other more. So women will say, I had trouble with finding a man, or I had trouble with learning how to love, or whatever, and they'll tell their friends about it. It's a bit of an ask for a man to say, I was really struggling to learn how to love a woman, so I went to a workshop. That's like saying, I couldn't do it in the first place. So I think the men don't actually tell each other quite so much as the women do. The women will, go there.
Yeah.
But the men, and it's not that the men don't, a lot of men do. I mean, to be fair, almost all the people who come to my workshops come through word of mouth, men included. We don't advertise. They all come because they've seen somebody having some changes, or their friends have said, you might be interested in this, and along they come. So it's not that they don't, but I think the women talk more, and the men are a little bit, what will anyone think of me if I say I've done that?
Well, funny thing with that is when men show up, and I'm blown away that these days, I've hijacked Man Up, and I've turned it around to Man Up and talk about it. And for me, it is show up, tell the truth. And when they show up and they come, oh my God, I've lost my thread. I hate it when this happens. Hold on. They find themselves in a men's group and they do basically say, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do the relationships. But they need to find a place to be authentic. And once they have, it's worth their weight in gold. But some of them have never had male friends. Some of them have had male friends, but there's no space for them because they have to behave in a certain way. Some of them, their male friends, whether it's drinking or sports or their community or their church or whatever it is, they all work and they don't want to jeopardize them. So if they, and a lot of them, they will come into the space and say, I'm scared of men, I've never had male friends, or none of my mates know me, I've only been here once before, and you lot know me better than my friends that I was brought up with. And as long as they have space for them, they've got every right to be whoever they are here, and to not jeopardize these relationships. But what I find often happens is the more that they show up for themselves in the group, and they practice being their authentic selves, it naturally somehow builds a bridge into their lives, and it spreads. They share themselves, and it kind of seeps into their communities, and it seeps into their extended lives, and it's sharing the love. But it happens that way, and if they are different in the group or in your workshops, and they're not in their lives, what's wrong with that? If that's their choice and those are their boundaries, then let them. That's absolutely fine, I think. Do you know, before I forget, we should plug ourselves.
Yes.
So, where do people find out about you, and what do you need plugging?
Right. So you can find out everything about our workshops at janday.com. Really simple, janday.com. There's an email on there, there's a phone number on there. I actually do answer the phone and talk to people. So
how traditional!
Really? You can talk and say, is this going to be alright? Is this going to be scary? What am I going to have to do? And what's coming up is the 5-day New Year workshop. So that's a beautiful introduction to my work. It's 5 days residential where you can let go of loads of the old patterns of the past, celebrate New Year without any alcohol, beautiful ceremony, looking forward to the future, learning about touch and relationships and boundaries, and feeling soft and connected. So that's what's just coming up, and then in the spring, that's called Passion, Power and Love.
Nice.
And then in the new year, we have 2 one-week workshops coming up, Living Tantra 1, so that's the first week in the Living Tantra series, and that's where people really dive deep into their sexual nature. And it's in order to learn about ourselves. So it's not about how to get the best orgasm or anything like that. It's about, we're using sexuality because that is the most powerful energy on the planet.
Yeah.
And there's not many people who can shut that down completely. It exists within them, so it's an incredible key to open up authenticity is to access your sexual nature. So that's the Living Tantra series, and once you're in that, there's a whole series that you can go on or not, you can choose. Well, there's even a one-day actually, on the 24th of March next year, we've got a one-day intro to Living Tantra, so people can just dip their toes in and have a little taste and meet me. But it's all on the website, Jan Day.
Great, Jan.
Tell us about your work, because I want to hear some of yours too.
So my plugs, I guess I should plug Men Facilitate. No, I keep saying Men Facilitate. Men Facilitate is where I train men and women to facilitate their own groups. And it includes the women who sometimes facilitate men's groups, but women also work with men. Coaches, therapists, care workers, whatever. And some women come on the training course because they've got 20 million questions to ask about men because they want to understand men. Fine. So yeah, Men Facilitate rocks. And now I'm running we've got a conference on Friday. This is so cool. A women's organisation contacted me and said, would you put on an International Men's Day conference so the women can understand the men? So I thought, great, we have so much we can show, we're going to give demonstrations. The guy who, the founding director, the guy who launched or dreamt up International Men's Day is going to be interviewed. We're going to give, even the mayor's coming.
Oh wow.
But what I want to do with this is take this work into the NHS, into local government, so men can talk. Men have a space to talk and not isolate and not medicate and not think of have their suicidal thoughts and things. So that's my big thing. And because I'm so passionate about, my God, I found a way of, everyone says, you save the NHS money and they'll like you. So yeah. And for me, it's empowering people, and it's also learn and take it into your community. Don't come to us. Don't be on the waiting list for a counsellor forever. Learn, take it to the community, be it, get empowered and pass it on. So that's why I keep talking about that. But what I should be talking about is Men Flirt, which in a nutshell is being the flirt, which is being your own authentic man. Forget about the cheap lines and the games and the acts, and letting that light shine through your eyes. So it's like, what's that cheap line now? Like moths to a flame.
and for me, this would be for the whole life. You just said it goes out into your normal life. If the light shines through your eyes, it's not an intimacy only relationship, it goes into your work life.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
This is what you just said, and this is the key.
Yeah, the key to life. It's like, if this is who I am and I'm putting it out, then it's going to be responded. I need to quickly, mensgroups.co.uk. Right, plugged up. I had a guy in a closed group recently, so it's totally confidential, no one could possibly find out. In the closed group recently, he was talking about his dating life and what he's doing, and this is happening with this one, and should I let her go? And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. So the group were talking about their experiences, and he said, oh, wait a minute. So you're saying that I need to find another woman who doesn't do that, but does that? And then someone said, no, you need to be that. And I find so many people, it's like, I have my checklist of my perfect partner. So check out the list and be the list. And if you are the list, then you will attract, rather than you be my shadow and you save me, be it, and then, as we were saying, attract it from that frequency, and then you can both share it. Where meanwhile, I think so many people, it's like, okay, I'm scared of this, this, and this, and I need this, this, and that, and these are the things missing. So if I find a better half,
Oh dear, and now we're heading for disaster territory.
Anyway,
Yeah.
are we running out of steam and have we covered everything?
We've covered quite a lot.
We
I'm sure it
haven't
would
done
take us
bad,
decades. We've covered enough for today.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I haven't said.
Mm.
I wore this schmaltzy thing. I'm seeing
Oh,
Jan Day. Exactly. We're going to be talking about love. What do I wear? What do I wear? So I rarely wear this, and it does have
Yeah,
hearts.
it's hard, it's beautiful.
A Mexican woman made this for me. I love it. And then and my wife said to me, "Well, why are you wearing these cufflinks? It's got
Oh yeah,
gold."
it's got a skull.
Because for me it matches, but it's
Yeah.
like surely you have to die to love.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Any words of wisdom to end?
Yeah, well, you have to die to love. You have to let go of what you are holding on so tight, and open to what is right now.
That sounds like the perfect summer. It's exactly what you said. Do you want to say it once more?
Opening up to what's happening, can I come home to myself? Can I be with what's happening with me right now, just in present? Opening to my being. I'm good enough just the way I am, and I'm willing to lead with it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
That
been
was
a
fun.
blast to hang out. I've loved it.
Yeah, we
Right.
did, yeah.
I think we're done. How do we say over and out? Sometimes I'm sitting next to another bloke, and I'm old enough to remember the two Ronnies. Do you remember?
We do,
And
yes.
it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from
Him. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Bye.